I never should have gone to Blackridge Abbey. I tell myself that every night, staring at the locked door of my apartment, listening for sounds that shouldn't be there. But it's too late now. The bells are still ringing in my head. Blackridge Abbey was abandoned long ago, but its history never left. Perched atop a cliffside, shrouded in mist, it had once been a place of faith. But faith turned to fear. The monks who lived there disappeared without a trace in the 1800s, and since then, no one had dared to step inside. The locals had a warning. If you hear the bells at midnight, do not follow the sound. Do not look at the abbey. Do not answer its call. They claimed the bells rang for the souls of the damned, for those who had vanished within its stone walls. And yet, curiosity is a dangerous thing. It started as a joke. My friend Ryan and I were in a pub, listening to old stories from the locals. They said the abbey had been abandoned for over 100 years, yet people still heard the bells. Some swore they had seen shadows moving in the ruined halls. We laughed at first. Then Ryan said, "Let's go see for ourselves." At 11:45 p.m. we set off. The hill leading up to the abbey was steep, overgrown, and eerily silent. No wind, no rustling trees, just the crunch of our boots against the dirt. Every step felt heavier, like something unseen was pushing back. At exactly midnight, the first bell rang, a deep, hollow sound that rattled through my chest. It came from the towering belfry, even though we knew that no one was there to ring it. The abbey should have been locked, its heavy wooden doors sealed by time and decay. But when we arrived, they were slightly open, as if inviting us in. A cold draft swept past, carrying with it the scent of damp stone and something rotten. Inside, the darkness was suffocating. We shined our flashlights along the crumbling stone walls, revealing faded murals of monks, their faces worn away by time. And then, in the corner of my eye, I saw movement. A shape, no, a shadow, slipping between the pillars. But when I turned, there was nothing there. "Did you hear that?" Ryan whispered. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but then the whispers grew louder. Dozens of voices, speaking in hushed, frantic tones, chanting, praying, begging. The sound circled us, bouncing off the walls, making it impossible to tell where it was coming from. Another bell rang, closer this time. It was as if the sound had moved. Ryan grabbed my arm, his face pale. "We need to go." But before we could turn back, the doors slammed shut behind us. And then, the whispering stopped. The silence was worse than the whispers. My flashlight flickered, and for a second, I was plunged into complete darkness. When the beam returned, I saw something. No, someone, standing at the far end of the abbey. A hooded figure, motionless, watching us. The bell rang again, louder than before, vibrating through the walls. The figure didn't move, but I felt it watching. Ryan grabbed my wrist, his grip like ice. "This isn't right. This place isn't empty." But deep down, we already knew that. We backed away slowly, keeping our flashlights steady. And then came the footsteps. Not ours. A slow, deliberate shuffle echoing from the archways above. Something was moving along the second-floor balcony, hidden in the shadows. The dust shifted. A stone crumbled from the ledge. Someone, or something, was up there. We turned into a side corridor, desperate for another way out. That's when we saw it. The walls weren't just covered in dust and decay. They were covered in writing. Thousands of words, scrawled in deep claw-like etchings. Latin phrases, prayers, warnings. We should not have rung the bell. We should not have answered. A deep, droning hum began to rise around us. A choir chanting in unison. But there were no voices in the dark, only echoes, filling the air with an unnatural harmony. The shadows along the walls shifted. The hooded figure was gone, but I could still feel its presence. A fourth bell. This time, it was deafening. Ryan stumbled, his hands covering his ears, and then, a cry. Not human. A wretched, distorted sound that came from deep within the abbey. The very stones seemed to vibrate with it. My breath hitched. It wasn't just a haunting. It was a warning. I grabbed Ryan and ran. We didn't care where we were going, only that we had to get out. The corridor twisted and turned, leading us deeper into the ruins. Our flashlights flickered wildly, and the walls seemed to close in. Then, up ahead, a doorway. A chance. But before we could reach it, the ground beneath us trembled. The bells were ringing again. But this time, I swear, I heard my name. A hollow, drawn-out whisper stretched between the tolls. Come back. My vision blurred. Ryan was shouting something, but I couldn't hear him. I could only hear the bells. Something yanked at my jacket, hard. I thought it was Ryan, pulling me forward. But when I turned, his hands were empty. A shadow, darker than the night, wrapped around my arm, pulling me back toward the abbey's depths. Cold, unrelenting. I screamed. The last thing I remember before waking up outside was the final toll, a sound so loud it cracked the night apart. And then, silence. The abbey stood before us, its doors once again sealed. No chanting, no footsteps, no bells, just the wind, whispering through the ruins. We never spoke of what happened that night. But sometimes, in the dead of night, when the world is silent, I still hear the bells, and I know they are waiting.